Yesterday, on September 21, 2025, the United States watched, mourned, and remembered. In Glendale, Arizona, at State Farm Stadium, a crowd of approximately 200,000 gathered to say farewell to Charlie Kirk. They came from all over: young people, families, supporters, critics drawn by a life cut short, but by a legacy that so many believe will endure. This was not just a memorial. It was a movement. Charlie Kirk was more than a political activist. He was a man defined by his faith, his ideals, and his mission. Founder of Turning Point USA at age 18, he dedicated his life to encouraging freedom, free speech, and a restored sense of moral purpose among young Americans. He was a Christian, a husband, a father. Someone who believed deeply in the power of belief, in the sacredness of family, in the possibility of change for nations, for individuals, for the next generation. His faith was not just personal, it infused his work, his speeches, the way he lived. On September 10, 2025, while speaking at Utah Valley University as part of his American Comeback Tour, Charlie Kirk was shot and killed. He was lost to the bullet, but he left behind more than grief. He left conviction. He left a cause. And many now believe he left a plan for others to carry forward. Yesterday's memorial was held in Arizona, at the vast State Farm Stadium, a fitting setting for someone whose voice had filled stadiums, campuses, debates, airwaves. Tens of thousands inside, overflow watching from outside. Flags. Banners. People dressed in red, white, and blue. Many wearing Turning Point USA gear. Some carrying signs. All there to honor one man's life, his death, and what it might mean. Faith and worship marked the proceedings. Music, hymns, prayers. Remembrances from people who worked alongside Charlie: friends, colleagues, conservative leaders. There was grief, raw, aching, but there was also determination. Because in Charlie's death, many saw not just loss, but responsibility. One of the most powerful moments came when Erika Kirk stepped onto the stage. She began by quoting one of Charlie's favorite verses, Isaiah 6 verse 8, "Here I am, Lord. Send me." A verse that reflected not just Charlie's mission, but his surrender. She described the shock and heartbreak of visiting Charlie in the hospital, looking at the wound, seeing the body, grief so profound she said she did not know heartache like it existed. And yet, in her grief, forgiveness. She spoke directly to Charlie's accused killer, Tyler Robinson, saying, "That young man. I forgive him. I forgive him because it was what Christ did, and it is what Charlie would do." Those words echoed across the stadium. She said that her husband believed in saving young men, even those lost, even those who might make tragic choices. And she emphasized, the answer to hate is not hate. The answer we know from the gospel is love, and always love. Love for our enemies and love for those who persecute us. It was a call to rise above anger, to practice mercy. Erika also touched on their marriage, the years of commitment, the work Charlie did, the lives he tried to touch. She spoke of seeing in his final moments a peace and mercy from God even in the midst of pain. She became emotional, many in the crowd wept. But through her tears came strength. She was announced as the new CEO of Turning Point USA, carrying forward what was unfinished, with resolve. Following Erika's words, President Donald Trump took the podium. His speech was at once eulogistic and polarizing. He honored Charlie Kirk as a great American hero, someone who stood for faith, freedom, and what many would call traditional values. He praised his energy, his conviction, his ability to inspire youth, to mobilize people, to speak out fearlessly. He said that Charlie's work will live on. But there was also contrast. Trump said that Charlie did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. Then, in a moment that drew attention, Trump admitted that he himself did not always live up to that ideal. "That's where I disagree with Charlie. I hate my opponent." "I'm sorry, Erika." It was a sharp juxtaposition, between forgiveness and resentment, between calling for unity and acknowledging strife. But even so, Trump reaffirmed that Charlie's voice would not be silenced, that his message would continue. Also speaking were Vice President JD Vance, who called Kirk a friend, a movement builder, someone whose mission had changed the course of American conservatism. Others echoed similar sentiments, that Charlie was not just a political figure, but a spiritual warrior, someone who believed in meaning beyond material gain, who believed in calling, in purpose. There was a theme repeated often: legacy. Not just in political terms, but in spiritual ones. Lives changed. Students inspired. Young men who had been drifting now convinced that purpose mattered. The idea of fatherhood. The idea of service. The idea of walking with humility, even in strength. Because Charlie's life supporters say was a balance, bold in conviction, yet tender in compassion. Faith was central, Christian references throughout. The gospel, love, forgiveness, redemption, resurrection. Charlie was remembered as one whose faith wasn't just talk, but walk. Someone who believed in his own mortality, but staked hope on what is eternal. That God judges not just by success, but by faithfulness. Charlie Kirk touched lives in many ways. Young people who felt forgotten. Students in college halls who heard his voice and felt challenged. Supporters who saw in him someone who cared about identity, about country, about believing what you say and doing what you believe. He stirred debates, he provoked thought, he stirred controversy. But many also believe he built something lasting. Turning Point USA, the organization he founded, now under Erika's leadership, was presented as the vessel to keep moving forward. Not to merely remember, but to act. Not to lament, but to rise. Not to give in to fear, but to claim courage. His faith, as many speakers noted, is a model. A man who believed that forgiveness mattered. That Christian love was more than a slogan. That even in death, one could say, "Father, forgive them." Erika's words modeled that. It is, perhaps, the clearest test of faith, to forgive when it hurts most. To love in the presence of loss. To do what many believe only in times of comfort, but to do it in the darkest hour. What can we learn from yesterday? That grief and forgiveness can coexist. That tears need not lead to bitterness. That love, when deeply held, has power beyond what seems humanly possible. That even in violence, there can be courage. Even in division, there can be a spark of healing. Even in death, there can be legacy. Charlie Kirk is being mourned, but he's not being forgotten. He's being studied, quoted, lived on. His life, like many who walk with conviction, reminds us that every word, every deed, every sacrifice counts. As we close this tribute, consider how each of us shows up in our own lives. How we treat others, how we respond when we are hurt. Do we choose forgiveness? Do we choose mercy? Do we live for causes bigger than ourselves? Charlie Kirk's memorial yesterday was more than a farewell. It was a challenge. A summons. To carry on. To love. To believe. To live with faith. May we honor his memory not just by remembering, but by acting. By building, by forgiving, by speaking, by loving. Thank you, Charlie Kirk, for living out your faith. For teaching many to stand. For opening eyes. For loving enemies. For showing a path. And to those left behind, to Erika, to the family, to the friends, may the peace that surpasses understanding guard your hearts. And may Charlie's work, his story, his mission continue to shape this moment and the ones to come. If you found this tribute meaningful, consider subscribing, sharing, so more people hear the message of love, faith, and forgiveness. Leave your thoughts in the comments. What part of Charlie's legacy touches you most? Until next time, may peace be with you all.